Okay, so if you guys watched my previous stream, we briefly, I say briefly, but it really did end up sucking up the whole stream in terms of time. But we talked about this lawsuit situation with iDubbbz and Ethan Klein from the H3 podcast. And I kind of gave my thoughts on it. And, just to kind of summarize my thoughts, I was not super fond of this lawsuit, to say the least. I thought this lawsuit had a lot of potential to have like negative ramifications for the entire YouTube sort of content creation sphere. It seemed very antithetical to the kind of things that Ethan was doing that were very pro, content creator space in the past. We all know about the infamous Matt Haas Zone lawsuit for copyright infringement that Ethan Klein had won in the past, and that was it set a very positive precedence for all of the creator sphere when it comes to React content, and that was a very positive thing. So to see this new lawsuit arc by Ethan Klein, where he's like suing people for copyright infringement, suing people for defamation, in some cases, like this one in particular, suing people for defamation for things they didn't even say, so it doesn't really make sense. The whole thing is kind of a mess. But before we get into like the latest update on the situation, I kind of want to do a brief recap of everything that happened. So let's start here. We have this tweet by Little Weasel that says Ian Joma, aka iDubbbz, announces he is being sued by Ethan Klein for defamation. Ethan is a monster, and anyone that doesn't see how he is destroying speech online will look back on this was discussed. And this was the announcement here. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at it. And of course, the video player on Twitter is ass. God, I hate Twitter's video player. It's literal garbage. Elon, fix your shit. You promised to do good things to Twitter, and you're not. Oh my
Sued
god.
by Ethan Klein in the courts of Calgary, Alberta, for defamation.
Which, by the way, Ethan openly admits that he chose to sue iDubbbz in Canada, which is where iDubbbz lives now, because he would have a better chance of winning a defamation suit in Canada than he would the United States. So literally taking advantage of like legal loopholes to try and silence his critics. It's pretty scummy.
I do plan on fighting against this, but for now it is in the hands of the courts and our attorneys.
You know what's even more ridiculous about this too is I want to say it was about a month ago. Okay, it was about a month ago that iDubbbz had gave this like random apology to like Ethan Klein. He says he felt like a lot of his criticisms of Ethan went too far. He said he was going to retire this like dragon VTuber character that he would use specifically for his like criticisms of like Ethan and stuff. And he said he wasn't gonna, do that kind of like drama content anymore. He was going to move on, right? And he just felt like he went too far or whatever. And it kind of seemed out of place because it was like, okay, him and Ethan have really been going at it with each other. And suddenly, like, he's just like, yeah, you know what? My bad for that. I think I went a little too far and I'm just going to move on from that. It just seemed like super out of place. But a lot of people who are like critics of iDubbbz kind of looked at this as like, hey, maybe iDubbbz is turning a new leaf, right? And then we found out like a day or two later that Ethan Klein had sent him a cease and desist, and that was him complying with the cease and desist. But I bring that all up to say what's more ridiculous about this is whenever you're dealing with like lawsuits, typically someone will send a cease and desist letter to get someone to stop engaging in the behavior that they don't want them to engage in, right? And if the person they send the cease and desist to complies with said cease and desist, then they just drop it and move on at that point. But Ethan, for whatever reason, decided he was going to send iDubbbz a cease and desist letter. iDubbbz chose to comply with said cease and desist letter, and he chose to sue him anyway. What? Anyway.
I will say that it worries me what it means for the commentary community, and especially the Canadian commentary community. But this is about...
See, that's the biggest concern here. Whether you do like, drama commentary, or maybe you do, social media commentary, you do political commentary, whatever. As parts of those types of commentary, you're often going to have to criticize fellow content creators. And the precedence this sort of thing sets is that if you disagree with or you take serious issue with the criticisms that are directed at you, then a big wealthy creator who you criticize could just bully you into silence using the legal system. That's the very malicious precedent this set. I've seen some people who are like fans of Ethan Klein saying, what's stopping people from suing now? Like there's nothing stopping them. And in all seriousness, yeah, that's true. If some wealthy creator wants to be a dickhead and sue someone into silence, they can absolutely already do that. But here's the thing you don't understand. Ethan Klein is a content creator that has a lot of influence in the creator space, right? We have a content creator who has been a champion for fair use on the platform. We have a content creator that over the years has been a champion for free speech on the platform and stuff like that. And he's very openly advocated for these things. And so when Ethan Klein says or does something, his actions have a lot of influence over the creator sphere. He's one of the OGs, especially when it comes to like the YouTube sort of commentary space, right? So when you see Ethan Klein doing something, other creators look at that and say, hey, if Ethan Klein can do this, then certainly I can too. And in the past, it's been a positive thing. Like, hey, if Ethan Klein could win his copyright lawsuit, for fair use, then certainly I could win it too. But now we've got a situation where we've got a large, wealthy creator using his vast wealth and resources to try and silence other creators. And that has the potential to influence other wealthy creators. Like, hey, I have these, people who are critical of me, these smaller creators that are critical of me as well. If Ethan Klein can get away with suing these people into silence, then so can I. And so that's the issue here, is that Ethan Klein, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, has a lot of influence in the creator sphere. And if he can get away with engaging in this kind of behavior, then other creators are going to look at that and say, hey, I can do that too. And that's a problem.
All I can say, at least for now, I'm sorry that the stream is so short. I wish I could give you a lot more grease, but I will resume the regularly scheduled content.
All right. Anyway, you guys got the point. So he announces the lawsuit, right? He announces the lawsuit. Now, you might be wondering, if you didn't watch my last stream where we went over this, what exactly got, iDubbbz into trouble? Well, we have the clip here of what got iDubbbz into trouble. And if you are someone who has like a functioning brain, you're going to look at this and be like, okay, this is really fucking stupid. Why is this getting iDubbbz in legal hot water when it really should get the original person who made the statement? So iDubbbz does this stream, and as a sort of watermark, he puts this statement by a streamer known as Destiny on the screen, where Destiny said some insanely messed up stuff about Ethan Klein and his family. The statement says, quick daily reminder that Ethan from H3H3 is likely a pedophile who has molested his own children. That's a pretty big yikes. That is a really fucked up thing to say about someone. You guys know I'm not the biggest fan of Ethan Klein, but I do not think it is okay to make these kind of claims about someone just because I don't like them. I can not like someone and have my own personal issues with someone, and at the same time look at that and be like, yeah, that's a pretty insane thing to say. You probably shouldn't say that. But keep in mind, this was a statement made by Destiny, okay? But because of this little stream clip I'm going to show you guys right now, Destiny didn't get sued for this. Instead, iDubbbz got sued for this. Let's take a look at the clip.
Oh. Okay, this is my watermark for the stream. I don't want any of my content being stolen. Got another Calci ad? I'm sorry, fat.
So this thing kind of serves like a dual purpose, all right? iDubbbz is trying to make a point here that you'll see in a second. I'll kind of like give my thoughts on the point that he's trying to making. But aside from trying to make a point by putting this on the screen, the other point that he's trying to make, or not really a point that he's trying to make, but the other thing he's trying to accomplish is something I've seen a lot of other streamers do as well. Sometimes you'll have content creators that will maliciously stream snipe your streams. And that could be extremely frustrating because it results in, you getting brigaded. It results in you being targeted by their audience. And of course, like a lot of times when people engage in this kind of behavior, oftentimes they'll misrepresent what you say and kind of, present it in a bad light, misrepresent your arguments, stuff like that. It's not a fun experience. As somebody who's had to deal with this kind of thing myself, I get it. And so a new strategy that a lot of streamers have started engaging in as of late, if they don't want to get stream sniped by malicious people like this, is they will essentially put something on screen, some kind of banner or something that would deter the person from reacting to their content live, or clipping their content, because then they would have to address what's on the screen, or they would have to show it to their audience. Like a good example of this is like some creators, maybe somebody puts out a critical video on one of these creators that stream snipes another creator, and for whatever reason that creator chooses to ignore said video. So somebody who gets stream sniped on the regular by that person might put something on the screen that says, hey, you should really look at this video and react to it, because it has some pretty good criticisms of you. And the idea is that, they don't want to show that to their audience, that they're ignoring this critical video of them. So they're less likely to, clip my streams or react to my streams in front of their live audience. So their audience doesn't have to see that they're ignoring that sort of thing. So this is a pretty common strategy. I get what iDubbbz was trying to accomplish here. I would not have put this on my stream. Like, I don't care how much I might dislike someone. I'm not going to put an accusation somebody else made, joke or not, that they're a pedophile who molests their own kids. Like, that is absolutely insane. So I don't think... I understand what iDubbbz trying to do here. I don't think this was the way. There were many other ways you probably could have done this exact thing, or accomplish this exact thing that he was trying to accomplish. I do not think that this was the way. But anyway, let's get to the point that he's trying to make as well.
We're all getting Kalshi ads these days. It's okay. So I do want to say I don't agree with what's being said in this comment here. But I'm putting it on screen because I think it should be addressed, because it's a big, bold accusation that's very fucked up. Thank you so much.
So that's another thing that's worth noting, right? Is that he's putting this on the screen and he's making it very clear he does not agree with this statement. He's essentially disavowing it. Okay? So he's not defaming H3 here by putting this on the screen and presenting it to his audience as fact. He's putting this on the screen and saying, hey, I disagree with this, but I think Ethan should address this because it's a serious allegation or whatever. Now, Ethan, as well as some other people, have interpreted this as him saying, you should address this because somebody's making a very serious allegation against you, and you should debunk this allegation, or like you should address it. I don't think that's what he meant. My understanding is the point that he was trying to make is, as I mentioned before, Ethan Klein is engaging in all these lawsuits right now, several of which are copyright, some of which are defamation lawsuits, stuff like that. And the argument he was trying to make is like, hey, you're suing all these people for defamation and copyright and all these various things. Why don't you sue someone who actually probably should be sued? Like the guy who accused you of like molesting your own kids. Like, maybe if you're going to sue someone for defamation, like maybe that's the guy you should go after. And I actually agree. If somebody's going to make such a false and like, defamatory allegation against you, you should probably go after the guy who's saying some insanely fucked up shit about you. Like that's just my 2 cents. That's kind of how I view it, is if you're going to sue someone who's making a defamatory claim, maybe sue the guy who's actually making a defamatory claim against you, and not the guy who's disagreeing with said defamatory claim. But anyway, let's move on. So I put up this tweet because Ethan, of course, after this announcement went out, he did address on his podcast the lawsuit and all that. And I kind of gave my thoughts on it and attached these clips. So we're going to take a look at them. This is what I said. No matter how much Ethan tries to rationalize suing iDubbbz instead of Destiny, it doesn't make sense. He lives in an alternate reality where what he is saying makes sense. It doesn't. And no one but your clueless, sycophantic fans are buying it. Let's go ahead and let's take a look.
Saying I have no smoke for Destiny is crazy.
I think he means no legal smoke.
Why would I?
Oh God, Elon!
We don't have a legal claim to sue
I'm
him.
just saying I think that's what he's.
Why would you not have his legal claim to sue him? He falsely accused you of molesting your own kids. How do you not have a legal claim to sue him? What?
Referring to.
But what legal smoke? Why would I sue him? Why would I?
Because he claimed you molested your kids, bro. Like, what?
Because he
suing you.
made. Okay, that was just what I thought.
I mean, something needs to happen.
Like, even Ethan's own, like, employees are pushing back on him, like, hey, like, can't you sue him for, like, the horrible thing he said about you and your family?
That would qualify.
Wait,
With Destiny, it didn't happen.
but everyone
It's
else,
not like what Ian did.
everyone else I'm assuming is
It's not like what Ian did. Ian put it on his stream and disavowed it. How is putting a horror, like, again, I would not have put that statement on my stream. Just to be clear, I would not have put that statement on my stream if I were iDubbbz. But when he put that on his stream, he very clearly disavowed it and did not agree with it. How is that not worse? How is that worse than what oh my God. I'm so flustered I can't even, like, speak straight. How is that worse than what Destiny did?
for copyright infringement. And then he wrote some dumb fucking heinous joke, quote unquote joke, horrible thing, in the context of us beefing in a scrolling chat. Like that's not enough to sue someone over. It's stupid.
I like how he downplays the scrolling chat thing too, because that message was posted in Destiny's offline chat. For those of you guys who don't know, like, Destiny hosts his own, like, website that he streams on, destiny.gg, or DGG for short. And he has his own live chat. So similar to the chat that I have here on Twitch, he has his own live chat on his own, website. And that offline chat is extremely popular. Like, at any given moment, there are potentially, like, hundreds to thousands of viewers or, like, participants in that chat. So when Destiny posts that in that chat, it's not just some random chat where, like, the likelihood that nobody's going to see it. We're talking about a chat that has hundreds to thousands of participants at any given point. We're not even talking about when he's just live. Like, the offline chat is very active. So to downplay this as if it's like, oh, well, hardly anybody's going to see it or whatever because it's just in this, like, stream chat or whatever. No! This is a very active chat. Hundreds and potentially even thousands of people saw this chat message. The crazy thing is, I know that I saw this chat message floating around on Twitter when it happened. Like, a bunch of people were reposting this screenshot. Meanwhile, iDubbbz gets so few viewership. As you'll see, I make this point in the reply to this tweet we're reacting to right now. But no disrespect to iDubbbz, but iDubbbz gets so little viewership, I didn't even know that this incident that he's getting sued for happened. Like, on a good day, iDubbbz will have, like, maybe 150 people watching his stream. Okay, his averages are extremely low. So to act like Destiny didn't put this statement in front of a larger audience than, like, iDubbbz did, like, it's insanity and it's just plain wrong. But, like, I don't know. This whole thing's really fucking dumb. It's just so dumb. No matter how much Ethan tries to explain it, it doesn't make sense to me.
The thing is that with Destiny, the context was obvious. He was upset that we were accusing him of something, and he said, well, I'm going to accuse you in return.
So he did it maliciously. That's an even better case for, like, defamation. Like, she explains this as if it makes sense to kind of hand wave away what Destiny did and, like, make an excuse for, oh, but this is why we can't sue him. No, that's like a perfect reason to sue someone. You covered allegations against Destiny on your show, and he got mad and maliciously in response made up some bullshit allegation, whether it's a joke or not. Like, that was malicious. And that is, like, a clear-cut example of something you can definitely sue somebody for.
Yeah.
There was context that everybody following the story understood what the context was. Ian is taking it out of context and then publicly, like, totally shooting it out to...
Oh, but the other point that I wanted to make is they're talking about how, as you'll see here in a second, they're trying to make it seem like iDubbbz put it in front of a bigger audience. I didn't even know this happened until Ethan talked about it. And I feel like a lot of people found out that this happened through Ethan. Like, most people didn't even know that this is a thing that occurred until Ethan talked about it. That's how, no disrespect to iDubbbz, but that's how irrelevant he is in terms of streaming. Nobody knew this happened until Ethan brought attention to it.
Many new people.
Man, he looks rough. I hope Ethan loses. We'll get into that in a second. There's an update already related to this. We'll get into that.
They
Also,
don't even know how it started.
Destiny never meant to put that claim out there like some big giant claim. It was a chat in a scrolling Discord. Ian's the one actually.
It wasn't a Discord. It was his offline chat, which is active with hundreds to thousands of users at any given point in time. I'm pretty sure I could pull up Destiny.gg right now, and there will probably be a bunch of people chatting right now. Can I try that? Let me see. Destiny.gg. And let's pull up the chat. Oh, right now is not the perfect example. I'll show the chat, but now's not the best example because he's live right now. I wasn't aware of that. But this is a very active chat. And like even when Destiny isn't actively streaming, this chat is like very active. With like I said, I know I sound like a broken record here, but like hundreds to thousands of live chatters at any given point in time. So to act like this was just, oh, it's just put in some chat and nobody's really going to see it, like that's not true. Like Destiny has a very active offline chat. So even if Destiny wasn't streaming at the time that he posted that, a bunch of people saw it. Like a huge amount of people saw it. But yeah.
And Snarkers are the one that turned it into this big giant claim. And then they're like, why don't you sue him? So on one hand, Ian takes the opportunity to broadcast it to the point where it's defamation. And then by doing that, he goes, oh yeah, well, why don't
So it's defamation to rebroadcast it and again disavow it while doing so. Say that you disagree with it. You're not presenting it to your audience as fact. You're making it very clear that you disagree with the statement and don't believe it. That's defamation. But making the statement in the first place, that's not. And making the statement, as they admit, as Gila mentioned a second ago, making the statement with intended malicious intent behind it. Okay.
you sue Destiny? It's like, well, it wasn't.
So you see what I mean in my tweet now? Where no matter how much he tries to explain it, it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, we're not going to watch the whole clip. I want to, take a look at this reply. How did iDubbbz make it bigger than Destiny? At any given moment, Destiny's offline chat has hundreds to thousands of active chatters. Meanwhile, iDubbbz streams average a couple hundred live viewers. Most of us didn't even know about this clip until Ethan mentioned it. So let me play this clip real quick. If Twitter's video plays.
Here, I'll respond to this one. Right.
Ethan, of all people, should be very familiar with how defamatory lawsuits can be exploited by those with a lot of money. He was the guy that always fought on the right side of these kind of battles.
Yep.
And now in this case, I really think he's lost his way in that regard.
Oh,
what
100%.
he is describing here is not even what iDubbbz did. He's talking about, you can't make these comments, that's not free speech. Destiny made the comment, man.
Yep.
Literally.
I mean, this.
And that's the other thing is like Ethan got so much shit for this. Like Moist Critical was calling him out. There are creators that regularly support Ethan and his like shitty lawsuits, and they were calling him out for this. He got a scathing, video made by Anthony Fantano on him in relation to some of his lawsuits. Like the entire YouTube sphere kind of like gathered together and said, "No, Ethan, this is fucked up, and you're just wrong."
Just a fundamental not like gross and like, I mean, it's a huge just misunderstanding of how the defamation laws work. It doesn't matter that Destiny's.
I mean, based on the way you're explaining this and why you claim you don't have a case against Destiny, it seems like you don't really understand defamation lawsuits either. Like, if I'm being honest, it sounds like you don't understand defamation lawsuits either.
Said it. Ian's the one that rebroadcast it way bigger without any context.
How did he rebroadcast it way bigger? He averages, let me show you. He averages at most like a little over two. So like we got this stream right here, 195, 192, 130, 185. Oh, he got over 200 that time. He got past 300 that time, almost 400. But for the most part, he's averaging about 200 live viewers a stream. How is the guy who has a massive following that engages regularly in his offline chat, how is that guy broadcasting it to a smaller audience to the guy that, again, no disrespect to iDubbbz, but the guy's kind of irrelevant these days, right? He doesn't have the following that he used to. This just doesn't make sense, not even remotely. So then this came out. apparently Ethan Klein said he would consider on his show, he said he would consider dropping the lawsuit if iDubbbz would just apologize. Never mind the fact that iDubbbz already apologized when he was sent the cease and desist letter, and he still got sued anyway. But here's Ethan saying he would consider dropping the lawsuit if iDubbbz would just apologize.
Creator on creator, trying to, hey, dude, you got to watch what you say. This is real life shit that landed actual agents of the government at my door to interview my children against my will with the authority to take them from my home and put them in foster care.
Okay, and I want to comment on this as well. There's a lot of like disagreement on these particular incidents that happened to Ethan, which if you're not familiar with them, I'll fill you in. During this time with this ongoing feud between Ethan Klein and the Hassan community, whether it's Hassan himself or the orbit of streamers that sort of surround Hassan, you know, your Denims, your Mike from PA, your all these various different creators that are associated with Hassan. During this feud, there are a couple of incidents that took place that basically sparked a lot of debate online. One of the ones was that somebody sent skulls to Ethan's place of business. A lot of people interpret this as like a threat towards Ethan and Gila. I disavow that. If this was done maliciously, if somebody sent those to them maliciously with the intent to make a threat like that, obviously I disavow that. As somebody who has had to deal with IRL targeted harassment as a result of incidents that have occurred on the internet or drama that happens on the internet and stuff like that, I've had to deal with this kind of stuff. I heavily disavow that sort of thing. The other thing is somebody called CPS on Ethan Klein and basically had CPS investigate whether he's like actually taking care of his kids or not. Again, as somebody who's dealt with like IRL harassment as a result of things that happen on the internet, I have a very cynical view towards that stuff, because there are some people who are justifying it and saying, well, Ethan described this very like neglectful situation that appeared to be happening in his home, so the CPS call was justified. I have a more cynical view because, I've seen people who've been like swatted before, and I've seen people who've dealt with those sort of things. So when I look at this, I'm a little bit more cynical in the sense that I look at it and I'm like, this was more likely something malicious, similar to like a swatting. Okay. I don't think, or at least I think that there's a very good chance that the person who did this call was probably doing so maliciously as a form of targeted harassment. Right. So when I see this, I disavow it, because I'm like, hey, you know what? Not only do I not think that Ethan Klein is not a bad parent, despite my own personal issues with Ethan Klein, I have no reason to believe that he's a bad parent or Gila is a bad parent either. So I don't want to, give any credibility to those kind of allegations without some form of evidence, right? But having said that, no, I disavow the CPS thing. I don't think that should have happened. I know there's some people who will disagree with me and say that they think it's valid. Whatever. You can have whatever opinion you want. I don't think that should have happened. But that's just my 2 cents.
It's so much different than it was. The minute those people showed up, I went into work and I said, the rules are changing. And even after I said that, they took that as an invitation to be even more brazen and more provocative, and to say what.
See, that's the other thing too. He keeps like trying to pin those things on like specific like groups of people, like the Hassan orbit, or specific creators like Denims or Frogan, or all these different people. And while these creators, which I have no personal issue with myself, while these creators have definitely said some things in regards to those situations that I personally don't agree with, we don't have any proof whatsoever that like a Denims or a Frogan or a Hassan or anybody like that is somehow tied to or responsible for what happened with the CPS call. We have no idea who did the CPS call. So I think it's very, inappropriate to put a lot of that, the responsibility for that happening on these creators. If anything, he's giving them wiggle room to have their own defamation lawsuits for claiming that they were somehow responsible for this when we have no proof of that.
He did, to put what he had on the on the screen.
Me and a cousin of mine think the skulls are more of a threat, but also a symbolism or reminder of the Israeli-Gaza thing, just a speculation. I've seen a lot of people say that, and I believe that Ethan and Gila also pointed to that as well. So you're not the only one. Which, by the way, what's up, Mo Moon? How you doing?
I told Ian, you know, the only time Ian's apologized is after I sent him the cease and desist, and I did not perceive it as genuine.
Jeez. This is so stupid. So he ended up suing him anyway because he didn't think that the apology was genuine when he sent the cease and desist, right? Let's be honest, okay? If you're familiar with the other lawsuits that Ethan's doing right now, one of the lawsuits he did is a copyright lawsuit against Casey Tron. And while I actually, you know, like Casey Tron, we're Twitter moots, we've had a few conversations, and I've always been a fan of their content. And I think, you know, they're good people or whatever. So no disrespect to Casey Tron. I think that there is like a decent argument for the fact that Casey Tron's reaction to the content nuke wasn't fair use. That said, if I were in Ethan's shoes, I wouldn't have sued her anyway. Because again, no disrespect to Casey Tron. She doesn't have that much pull in terms of her audience. Like the amount of like loss that he would suffer for her non-transformative reaction is like bare minimum, like nothing, like hardly anything at all. If I were him and he really did, if this was really about, you know, copyright and, you know, not fair use, not transformative, you actually want to protect your copyrighted work, I would have went after someone like an XQC who has a much larger audience and therefore has a much better potential to financially impact you. But not only that, one of the reasons that Ethan says that he sued these other people is because they, said that they intended to take away viewership from him and not, allow him to profit off of his own content by letting their audience watch the video through their reactions. XQC basically said the same thing. He said he doesn't give a fuck about, Ethan Klein. I'm paraphrasing, but he doesn't give a fuck about Ethan Klein. He doesn't give a fuck about stealing from Ethan Klein when he does his reaction or whatever. So, like, if this was really about, like, copyright infringement and wanting to protect your copyrighted work, it would make more sense to go after a big fish like an XQC as opposed to someone like a Casey Tron who really doesn't pull all that much viewership to begin with. But all of that was to say that, he says that he still sued iDubbbz because he doesn't feel the apology was genuine. The way that the Casey Tron lawsuit ended is she ended up settling, and as part of the settlement, she had to put out a statement where she apologizes and retracts a lot of her claims and all this stuff. A lot of people have jokingly called it the head to the gun or sort of like terrorist like video where it looks like she's like a hostage video. That's the phrase that people were using. It looks like a hostage video because she's like sitting there reading this statement. Do you think that when she was forced by a settlement to apologize, do you think that that apology was genuine, Ethan? Because I'm going to be honest with you. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't afford to keep fighting you in court and therefore had to make that settlement, I don't think she would have issued an apology like that. I really don't think so. So to make the argument that like you believe that her apology was genuine, meanwhile you still sued iDubbbz because you don't think his apology was genuine. I mean, come on, that's cap. That's cap. When you apologized to Ryan Kavanaugh, was your apology genuine? Because that was part of a settlement too, and I tend to believe that that probably wasn't genuine. But hey, I could be wrong. That's just me.
Right? And I said, and I still say, that if Ian would issue a genuine apology, I'd probably think about dropping the lawsuit.
So that's where we're at. He puts it out there. I will drop the lawsuit, or I'll consider it at least, if Ian gives me an apology. So he got what he wanted. iDubbbz put out this video apologizing to Ethan. So, well, let's give it a listen. Let's see.
Hello, everyone. I am going to be talking about a very important and heavy topic for me. If you're unfamiliar with the context of any of this, I'll give you a brief rundown. But that is not the main purpose of this video. I do think it's important to share a little bit of my side of the story, but I don't want to take away from the purpose of this video, and that is to apologize to Ethan Klein and his family.
And I've seen some people say that they feel that this apology isn't genuine either. I get it. There's a big part of the internet that just likes to shit on iDubbbz. I personally am not one of those people. I personally have a lot of respect for a lot of the reflection and personal growth that iDubbbz has kind of, achieved over the past several years. Like, he's definitely made some mistakes that I disagree with. I think his handling, for example, of like Creative Clash was extremely poor, which is why a lot of the things played out the way they did. But having said that, I think in terms of him developing as a person, growing as a person, and working on becoming a better person, I think that that's a very positive thing. And I know a lot of people like to meme on him for the I gained empathy thing, but like, I think when you see this statement here, and my personal opinion that this is a very genuine apology, I think you can kind of see that, right? Because even though I don't think he should have been sued in the first place, I understand where he's coming from with this like apology where like, hey, you know what? I did go too far by putting that statement on my stream, and I want to own up to that and I want to apologize for that. Yes, I don't like Ethan. Yes, I disagree with a lot of the things that he's doing now, but that was wrong and I'm sorry. And, I've seen some other people on the other side of the argument that are like, he shouldn't have to apologize to Ethan, but that's not what it's about, right? When you're a person who genuinely feels remorse for something you've done wrong, whether you think that person that you wronged is a good person or not, it doesn't matter. If you genuinely feel like you did something wrong and you want to own it, then you're going to apologize. I mean, I've done this before where like I've apologized to people that like people close to me said, why did you apologize to those people? They didn't deserve that. As an example, I've apologized to, Bo Black, somebody who spent, well over a year constantly harassing me on his streams, or I should say her streams, because she goes by she, they now. My apologies. Constantly harassing me on her streams, doing the, tipster bully streams or whatever. So a lot of people looked at that and said, like, why would you apologize to them? They don't deserve your apology. And it's like, well, I agree that what they did was very malicious, but at the same time, I'm not going to act like I never did anything, that was malicious towards them. And therefore, I think they deserve an apology for it. Or another example, a lot of people got really upset with me in my private circles when I apologized to Nicholas Diorio. And they were like, why would you apologize to this guy who was like viciously targeting you for so long and like literally saying that he was going to A-log you for the rest of your life and stuff like that? Why would you do that? And it's like, look, I don't like those things. I don't appreciate that they did those things to me. And, I'll be honest, like I'm still upset about a lot of those things. But having said that, that doesn't mean that there weren't things that I did to them that weren't fair to them, and I think that they are owed an apology for those things. So I apologize to them for them. So I've definitely been in situations like that before where I apologize to people who others felt didn't deserve an apology. But like, when you genuinely are a person who's working on yourself and trying to improve as a person and trying to grow as a person, and a person who, mock iDubbbz for the statement all you want, but I mean, this is a real thing, a person who's gained empathy, that's what you do, okay? You might dislike someone, you might hate the way they've treated you, you might think that they're a very malicious person, but that said, if you really truly feel like you wronged them, you're going to take ownership of that and you're going to apologize. And that's what I see here with iDubbbz. Anyway.
Especially his kids. Basically, Ethan is suing me for having rebroadcasted a statement made by Destiny on my stream. I did display the very disgusting comment for 40 minutes, and it was wrong. It was a comment from Destiny, and I even said that I don't agree with it, but it
See, this is my take on this, right? My take on this situation. Just kind of analyzing the situation on face value. I don't think that iDubbbz should have been sued or even threatened with a lawsuit for this situation. Because again, it was a statement that another creator made, which by the way, that creator is not getting sued at all. Destiny is not getting sued at all in this situation. I think I would more understand the situation if iDubbbz and Destiny were being sued for it, but no, it was Destiny's not getting sued, but iDubbbz is, right? And so, I don't think he should have been sued for that, especially because he disavowed and disagreed with the statement. He wasn't presenting it to his audience as a statement of fact. He was making it very clear he doesn't agree with it. So I don't think he should have been sued for that. However, I don't think he should have had that on his stream either. I understand the argument he was trying to make, and I understand what he was trying to accomplish with preventing, getting clipped and stream sniped and stuff like that. There were other ways to accomplish that argument and other ways to accomplish not getting stream sniped like that. There were much better ways to achieve that, and the way he went about it was wrong. So I can agree that what iDubbbz did was wrong, but at the same time, I could also say that he still shouldn't have been sued for it. So I disagree with Tippy. I will respect it. What do you disagree with? Mind elaborating on that a bit?
It's sort of high.
Which is fine, by the way. I don't mean to sound like I'm like targeting you. Like, why do you disagree with me? No, it's fine to disagree with me. I want to hear your take because I'm not sure what you're disagreeing with.
Lights how I knew that it was a wrong thing to put out there into the universe and show people. Regardless.
Sometimes I just don't understand the legal system, lol. I mean, in fairness, I don't really understand the legal system either. I'm not a lawyer. I've covered lawsuits over the years, and I've gained a little bit of knowledge through that. But having said that, I'm not a lawyer. I don't take legal advice from me, et cetera, et cetera. Ethan won't sue Destiny or XCC because it would have been a circus for Ethan. I mean, I agree, right? I absolutely agree. I mean, it's a circus now, because look at what happened with like the Denims thing. He was so sure of himself that he was going to get a win on Denims, and so far the Denims lawsuit is going in his favor. Which, by the way, if I want to give my honest take on the three lawsuits, the three copyright infringement lawsuits that he's doing against Denim, KCTron, and Frogan, I think as much as if you happen to be watching this, KCTron, I love you. I'm just being real from somebody who's covered copyright suits over the years. You had the most likely to lose case in this regard because your reaction was extremely lacking in transformative nature. No disrespect or no hatred towards KCTron. Like I said, I love KCTron. But having said that, of all the cases that he had, the case against you was probably the best one. Now, granted, I wouldn't have sued you anyway, because again, I think you have such a small audience that it really doesn't make sense. Like, how much are you really truly stealing from Ethan? But having said that, I think that in your case, he had the best case for sure. With Frogan, it's kind of hit or miss because Frogan did provide some commentary throughout the reaction. But Frogan also had moments where they would step away and leave the video playing while they like went to the bathroom or went to go get snacks and stuff like that. So that's kind of like not as likely to win. It's not necessarily a shoo-in that it will absolutely win. But still, it's kind of it's somewhere in the middle. I'm kind of on the fence about that one, honestly. Denim's reaction, in my opinion, 100% without a shadow of doubt qualifies for fair use. She provided tons of commentary. I know some people tried to, make the bullshit argument of like, oh, but so many of the things she said weren't even related to the video itself. It doesn't really matter. She's providing commentary. She is transforming the content. She added like double the runtime of the video to her segment on it, right? So I think if anybody had the best argument for fair use in their favor, it was definitely Denims. But anyway.
The point I was making, it was wrong. I was angry and I was like, how do I get this guy to, one, not clip me, not mock me and harass me on his live stream, and two, this guy's a fucking bully. I
definitely agree. As somebody who has been targeted by Ethan Klein myself and has faced the ire of his community, Ethan Klein is 100% a bully. Okay, like I touched on this briefly in my last stream, but like, over the past few years, after I kind of left the drama commentary community, I admittedly, gave some bad positions in the past that I, shouldn't have gave. I was struggling with like, alcohol addiction, and I was going through like a lot of different things in my life at that time, which didn't have me in the best mental headspace. But throughout all that time, I faced a lot of targeted attacks and harassment. And I gotta be honest with you, nothing was worse than the harassment I faced at the hands of Ethan Klein and his audience. Like, holy shit. And if you're not familiar with that situation, I'll touch on it briefly, but there was a situation where Ethan Klein was doing some coverage on Vosh. And I should not have inserted myself into the situation, but I ended up putting out a tweet kind of speaking out against Ethan Klein maliciously misrepresenting the clips of Vosh in his coverage. Now, there was this other controversy that was happening around the same time involving some content that Vosh accidentally showed on his computer. My original tweet did not comment on that, okay? My original tweet did not touch on that. I was simply commenting on, hey, I think it's kind of, fucked up that Ethan Klein is misrepresenting these clips against Vosh. And Ethan Klein used that as an opportunity to not only attack me for my disagreement with him in regards to those clips, but also misrepresent me as defending Vosh and the content that he had on his computer, which is not what happened. That is not true. I never defended that stuff. I definitely, gave him some benefit of the doubt that in hindsight, I just didn't need to be involved in the whole situation to begin with. But what pisses me off about that situation is Ethan Klein and his audience took a statement I made where, yes, I got involved and I shouldn't have, and I can own that, but they took a statement I made and misrepresented it to mean something else. Because they happened to be, also criticizing Vosh for the content that was on his computer. They took my disagreement with the misrepresentation of the clips and kind of shoveled that in with, oh, you're also defending the content he had on his computer, which is not true. I'm pretty sure, if I'm being completely honest and transparent, I'm pretty sure I deleted that tweet now. I went ahead and wiped a bunch of old tweets. But having said that, if you were to go and find that tweet, because a lot of people screenshotted it, it's out there. It's not like it's impossible to find. But nowhere in that tweet do I mention the content that Vosh had on his computer. But Ethan Klein made it about that anyways. And I got so much shit for that. Without getting into the specifics, anybody who knows me personally in chat, they're aware of like how bad it got behind the scenes. But I can confidently say that was the darkest I had, like, in terms of my mental headspace, that is the darkest place I have ever been. I'm somebody who's been very open with the fact that, I suffer with an anxiety disorder. I have a depression disorder. These are things I struggle with, right? But out of all the things I've dealt with, that is easily the worst mental headspace I have ever been. And my mind went to some very dark places during that time. So, yeah, I do think Ethan Klein is a bully. And I do think that he uses his platforms in ways that are very harmful and malicious. I'm all for providing criticism of people. I'm all for, giving your opinions on things, disagreeing with people, etc. But, like, there is a very malicious and targeted attack type nature to him and his community that I don't know if he doesn't realize it. I don't know if he realizes it and doesn't care. It doesn't really matter. But like him and his community are absolutely engaging in acts of targeted harassment and bullying. 100%.
I'm angry that this multimillionaire is silencing people and suing people who have a much smaller audience than he does.
Because again, that's the other thing, right? That's the other thing. There have been, when it comes to defamation, like with iDubbbz, it was a defamation lawsuit. And with Noah Sampson, it's a defamation lawsuit. There have been people who have definitely made more harmful claims against Ethan Klein that could qualify as defamation, that for whatever reason, he doesn't go after them. There are definitely people who have taken Ethan's content in ways that definitely don't comply with fair use and have, the potential because of their large followings to do more damage financially to Ethan Klein with their non-transformative content. Those people get a pass. But he's targeting specific people with what seems to be damn near military precision in terms of who his targets are. Because they're people he has personal grievances with. Whether it's Hassan or people in Hassan's orbit, whether it's iDubbbz, who he feels personally betrayed by because they used to be friends and he didn't get the defense from iDubbbz that he wanted. These are people he has personal grievances with. And he is very clearly using his vast wealth and legal resources to try and silence these people that he has personal issues with, rather than targeting people who probably have the potential to do a lot more genuine harm to him. So, I agree. He is absolutely using lawsuits as a way to silence his critics.
and can barely defend
Which, by the way, is something he has been very outspoken against in the past.
themselves. And so I'm angry. I don't like bullies. So I wanted.
I always saw Ethan as a bully long before this. The thing is, like, I used to be a big H3 fan back in the day during the H3H3 production days. I kind of fell off with Ethan with the podcast. I mean, I watched the podcast for a while, right around the time that they were still doing H3 content, but they were also doing the podcast. And then eventually they moved on to just doing the podcast. I kind of fell off with it just because, I don't know, the format didn't really work for me. I kind of found it boring or whatever. For a while there, I kind of like came back so I missed a lot of the stuff is the point I'm making. I kind of came back for a while because he started, discussing like progressive politics on his platform at a time when I was getting interested in these things. So I kind of started watching again, and there were like a handful of like opinions that he was giving that I like actually really agreed with. But then I started seeing a lot of like this stuff happen, and like him engaging in this like very targeted malicious behavior. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm tapping out. I'm done. It's not even because of what happened to me necessarily. I'm pretty sure I had already kind of like decided, you know what, I'm done with this by then. But then the thing happened with me, and it's like, holy crap, like it was just like, this guy's insane. Like, I thought it was bad as a spectator watching what he was doing to people, but then experiencing it firsthand, like, holy fuck.
To do something.
Like, it's insane to me to see people, or to see Ethan rather, go on and on about how, harmful snark communities are. And they are, don't get me wrong. They absolutely can be. Snark is not much far off from something like fucking Kiwi Farms or whatever, right? But it's crazy to me to see him talk about these malicious communities. And it's like, bro, you've built a malicious community of your own as well. Whether you realize it or not, you absolutely have. I don't know if I'd go as far as to like compare them to like your community is snark or whatever. But they're definitely extremely malicious. I mean, for fuck's sakes, when you complain to Reddit about the snark communities against you, they refuse to take them down because they viewed your communities to be like malicious harassment communities as well. And that is insane to me. That should have been a moment of like self-reflection for you. Like, okay, like, what am I doing here? But I don't know.
That would,
maybe I'm just built different. Like if somebody told, like if I reached out to a community because I was being targeted, with harassment, and I tried to like get them to like, hey, can you take down these communities that are harassing me? And their response was, we're not going to take it down because your community does the same thing. I would look at that and go, whoa, like maybe I need to do some personal reflection because maybe I'm doing some things that I don't want to be doing.
Have an impact. And, without checking in with myself of whether or not that was a right or wrong thing to do. I justified it in my head at the time. I was like, okay, well, it's not my words. And it's actually said by a really bad guy, Destiny. Not a fan of that guy. It's very clear that it was never the right thing to do. It was a comment about Ethan and his children, and it was disgusting. I said at the time in the stream that I don't agree with it.
Moon says it's only good when he does it. I mean, it really do feel like that's what it comes down to, right? Bullying's bad, except when like Ethan does it. And like Ethan has even like targeted innocent people in some of his targeted attacks. Who remembers when Ethan was covering the situation, like the alleged abuse of what's her name? Amaranth by her husband? He was covering that, and they ended up like targeting some random guy with like a similar name on Instagram. Like literally like harassed this dude, and this dude had nothing to do with it whatsoever. And like apparently like members of his audience were even like starting to like dox this guy and stuff. And he did nothing. This guy had no connection to the situation whatsoever, but he got like targeted with harassment for absolutely nothing.
But still sharing it and broadcasting it to people for 40 minutes, that was an irresponsible and reckless thing to do, especially for parents. Like there are many parents with kids out there who do not want to see that shit, and it's painful. And I'm sure it was extremely painful.
I mean, like, regardless of how anyone might feel about Ethan Klein, myself included, no parent wants to be accused of that sort of thing against their kids, right? And if you are a parent as well, and you're seeing that play out, online, nobody who's a parent wants to see that sort of claim made about another parent. Like, that stuff is really fucked. Absolutely fucked up.
For Ethan and Hila to read that shit and have it pop up again and again and again. And just because it's coming from a piece of shit guy, and I'm showing it to people, like, look what this piece of shit said. It's wrong. It's wrong to do. And I didn't,
I do think the point that he was trying to make, well, first of all, I don't think he needed to show that statement the way that he did, in order to make the point. Like, I think it's one thing if he was like, hey, if you want to sue people for defamation, maybe you should sue the guy that said this and briefly show it on the stream in that context. That's one thing. But as he himself admitted, he put it on the stream for like, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever he said, 40 something minutes or whatever, right? Yeah, that was not cool. It's one thing to kind of point out this guy said something really fucked up about you and your family. If you want to sue somebody for defamation, you should probably sue this guy. It's just his whole approach to it, and like also trying to use it to prevent like stream sniping and clipping and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that wasn't the move, my guy.
I didn't come to this overnight, right? Like,
There's that moment. There's that moment when he brought up Etika's death. The one on Keemstar. I don't. I'm assuming you mean like Keem anymore, but that was crossing a line. Yeah, I mean, as somebody who was part of the commentary space at that time, because obviously, like, I'm a very progressive leftist person now, and I run in a lot of those circles, the online left circles and stuff like that. And one thing I will say, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Keemstar myself anymore either, as somebody who was very much involved in that space at the time, anybody who blames Keem for what happened to Etika didn't actually pay attention to what was happening at that time. Without getting too much into it, because it's a completely different topic and I don't want to derail too much. Anybody who knew Etika at the time and followed that situation, Etika was somebody who did a lot of crazy off-the-wall stunts for attention and publicity. It was very common for him to do off-the-wall shit to get attention, and a lot of the time you didn't know if this was him having like a mental breakdown genuinely, or if it was just another one of his stunts. And there were people at the time when all this stuff was going on with Etika that thought like, oh, he's just doing one of his stunts again for attention. And obviously the tragic truth of it is that no, it was real this time, but nobody knew that. And that included Keemstar, who was a close friend of Etika's. He just thought it was a stunt too. That's why he had him on his show and had that conversation with him. So I think it's really gross for people to blame Keemstar for what happened. And this is another one of those things where, like, I might not like Keemstar, but I have empathy for him in this regard, because to this day, I still get blamed for what happened to Apollo Legend, who was a friend of mine and passed away. And, when I heard about his passing, I posted on social media grieving his loss like anyone would, just like Ethan just did with Oliver Tree, right? He returned to Twitter briefly to post a memorial post mourning loss of his friend. I did the same thing, and a lot of people misrepresented that as me trying to report his death as the news, and some people blamed me and said that because I had tweeted that prevented people from calling like wellness checks and stuff like that. And we later found out that like he was already gone, because we did call a wellness check and we got a response. I'm not going to get too much into it because it's a whole private thing, but basically he was already gone. There was no saving him. But I get blamed for that to this day. I literally saw just the other day, someone had DM'd me on Instagram in my message request blaming me for Apollo's death. So as much as I may not like Keemstar, I do have a little bit of empathy for him in that regard, because like I know what it's like to be blamed for something that happened to your friend like that. It's not fun. Also, it's very disrespectful to Etika's mom, because Etika's mom has publicly stated she wants people to just let her son rest and stop using him as a weapon towards Keemstar. and that she doesn't believe anything Keemstar did impacted what her son did. And yet people still willed her son's death as a weapon against Keemstar. Like, there are plenty of things you can criticize Keemstar for that would be absolutely valid. But even if you disagree with my opinion that Keemstar is not responsible for what happened to Etika, can you at least respect his mom's wishes and stop using her son as a tool to target Keemstar? There's so many other things you can target Keemstar with. Why do we have to go to the thing where this poor guy's mom is like, please stop doing that? You know, respect the mom's wishes at least. Come on.
To be frank, I'm angry.
They just wanted someone to blame. Keem was just the pasty to be bombed. For a while there, because I had covered that situation as well at the time, some people try to like pin blame on me as well at the time, and it's just like, no, like, I didn't even monetize that content because I wasn't sure at the time. Like, is this a bit or is this, you know, real? I don't know. And I didn't, even at the time, I didn't feel comfortable even monetizing that stuff because it just didn't feel right. And obviously, like, with all my other drama content, that stuff's privated now. But, yeah, at the time, like, we were all very confused about whether this was real or not. Yeah, there's so many people who like to try to rewrite history of what happened back then, and they just have no idea what they're talking about. Most of these people weren't even there at the time.
Do not like Ethan. I think he's doing a lot of damage to people online.
Yeah.
And it changed.
I can't begin to tell you how much the attacks towards me from Ethan and his community affected me. Like, we're talking, like, this is going to sound cringe to some people, and I'll probably get mocked for this, but I'm just being honest. It took a lot of therapy to get past the shit that I endured when that shit happened. A lot of fucking therapy. Because holy fuck. You know, anybody who saw me, you know, when I dealt with, like, the commentary community attacking me and, you know, stuff like that. Like, yeah, I got a lot of shit from that community for sure. And there were some things that were done to me and said about me that, you know, I'm understandably still pretty upset about. But holy fuck. The stuff that Ethan Klein and his community said about me and targeted me with, like, I can't begin to tell you how dark I was, of a place I was in, as a result of all that. Like, it was really fucking bad. Ethan needs to be a lot more responsible with his platform, because holy fuck.
The way that I was thinking about it. I didn't think about it. I didn't ground myself. I didn't think about, like, who is actually being affected in this instance.
Was this I just about people calling CPS on their kids because it happened to me as a kid? But Ethan needs to look in the mirror and realize that has been defaming people for years. And then Momoon responds to that with, he'll just say you're victim blaming him and his wife. I've experienced that too, Pancake. When I was younger, my family had just moved into a new neighborhood, and my mom was yelling at me in the garage because I don't remember what I did, but I actually, you know, I did something that, you know, my mom was in the right to be upset. And so she was kind of grilling me on it in the garage. And somebody in the neighborhood that we had just moved into, they didn't call CPS, but they called the cops and claimed that my mom was, like, abusing me. And I'm like, what the fuck? I remember when the cops showed up and they kind of pulled me aside to, like, question me, you know, separate from my mom. And I'm like, look, like, I'm annoyed that my mom was, like, upset with me or whatever, but, like, at the same time, like, she didn't abuse me. Okay, you could check my body. I don't have any bruises or scars or anything like that. Like, I'm fine. And whoever called the cops on my mom is being really dumb. Because, yes, my mom was yelling at me because I did a dumb thing that upset her. But she was not abusing me. So while it wasn't specifically CPS, I had somebody call the cops on my mom like that. And it was, like, really stupid.
And Ethan's
like, what my mom was doing was no different than any other parent disciplining their kid by, like, you know, giving it to them in the terms of, like, telling them off, like, as a form of discipline. You know what I mean? There was nothing abusive about it.
And his kids are being affected. You know, I just because I don't like Ethan, I think
Like, my parents haven't always been, perfect parents, and I think that a lot of the things they did, while raising us were not the best way to handle it. But I think in that particular situation, my mom did not do anything wrong, and that was a really stupid reason to call the cops on my mom.
it's wrong to find
And we never did find out who made that call, ever. We lived in that neighborhood for several years, and we never found out who made the call.
attack vector that is his kids. It's foul. It's not okay. And I think it was wrong for me to use the Destiny screenshot as a cudgel to make my point. I didn't need to use the Destiny screenshot to make my point.
I think that if the point is that, like, if Ethan's going to target people with lawsuits, then you should target people who are actually worth targeting, like Destiny for making that statement. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to use the screenshot to emphasize that point. The part I think is wrong is, like, the dual use of, like, hey, I'm putting this on the screen to also deter Ethan from, like, reacting to my streams or, clipping me and stuff like that. I think that was the wrong part, because you're putting that on screen for an extended period of time like that. That's the part where it gets kind of, okay, you're not just making a point anymore. Now you're putting something on screen in front of your audience that is not great and shouldn't be there. There are definitely other ways to achieve not getting clipped or not getting stream sniped or whatever. Like, one thing I've seen a lot of Twitch streamers do is they'll play copyrighted audio on their streams, because that way, they don't, they can't react to it or whatever on YouTube, because they'll get a copyright claim or whatever. That probably would have been a better way to achieve that than putting that on their screen or whatever.
There's a million other ways I could have done
I
it.
feel bad for you right now, because Smash JT's community and right wingers are going after you. It's fucking Smash JT. Who gives a shit? That guy's a fucking weirdo. Which, by the way, I have a segment for him later. But yeah, we'll take a look at that.
But
I didn't even know. Like, I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff. So 9 times out of 10, like, when somebody's having a go at me on, like, social media like that, I don't even fucking know.
I didn't. And I regret that
I
did.
probably would not have known it right now if you hadn't even mentioned it.
And I regret that I ever put that screenshot on my live stream. That's the main reason why I feel like I do need, for myself, for my soul, to own up to this and acknowledge that I went too far. It wasn't okay. Ethan and Hila and their family do not deserve that. At the end of the day, whatever happens with the lawsuit is what it is. For myself, I needed to make it known on the internet that what I did was wrong, and I don't want to be that person. I don't want to behave that way. They're
making fun of your appearance and calling you gay and stuff. I saw it on Twitter. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Like, at the end of the day, like, the way that I express myself isn't meant to please other people, especially people on the internet who are malicious anyway. I present myself the way that I do because I like the way I look. I like to express myself the way that I express myself. And quite frankly, if a bunch of, like, losers on the internet don't like it, I don't care. Ultimately, I like the way I look, and that's why I present myself the way I look. And if people don't like it, that's a them problem. I don't really give a fuck about what they think about it. And also, them calling me gay, I'm only 1/3 gay, okay? I'm pansexual, so you got to get it right, okay? I'm only 1/3 gay. Get a fucking clue.
To make content that I'm proud of. I don't want to give in to a harassment back and forth online.
Pretty sure I saw Asmongold. Yeah, I don't care. Asmongold, it literally lives in a garbage can of a house because he literally lets garbage collect in his home. Like, do you think I give a shit about what someone like that thinks about me? Let's get real.
I want to put my energy into making content that I can be proud of and that I'm not going to be ashamed of because I lost the plot. I want to stay focused. I want to check in with myself and know what it is I want to be and what I want to do and what message I want to spread.
See, I look at, like, stuff like this and I'm just like, have whatever criticisms you want about iDubbbz for things that, are legitimately worth criticizing. Because there are things that are worth criticizing iDubbbz for. But I feel like so many of the things that iDubbbz gets shit for are just like, why? Like the whole like I learned empathy thing. When I look at this, I genuinely see somebody who has learned empathy and somebody who can look at something that they feel they've done wrong, reflect on it, and like own it and apologize for it. Like when I look at this behavior, I look at somebody who really truly has grown as a person. And I got a lot of respect for that.
And this isn't a message I want to spread. So I'm sorry to Ethan.
I've been called gay all my life. It doesn't even bother. I don't even bother correcting them anymore. I mean, imagine calling me gay on Pride Month when I'm openly a pridey and thinking I would give a shit about that. Like, are you for real right now? Come on.
And Ela and your family, you guys didn't deserve that. I'm going to think about all of this a lot more, I'm sure. But for now, I really do want to just get back to making the content that I want to make. Having said all that, I wish everyone the best. I genuinely want to see a better world, and I do not want to be a contributor to what makes it terrible. So long.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So there's that. There's that. There's the apology. And like I said, I understand some people, they think that iDubbbz didn't necessarily need to make this apology. Ultimately, it comes down to how he feels about it. If he genuinely feels he went too far and he feels like he should apologize for that, then that's up to him. That's not really up to anybody else. Now, this came out as a result of this video. We have this comment left on the video by H3H3. Hi, Ian. I appreciate the thoughtful apology. It means a lot. I've instructed my attorneys to drop the lawsuit entirely. So somebody in chat earlier, I think it was Mystical, was saying that they hope Ethan loses. The lawsuit isn't even a thing anymore, apparently. It's been completely retracted. Now, I did give my thoughts on it. I said, I guarantee you it wasn't about the apology. It was because he was getting shit on and realized he made a huge mistake. Because, like, when it came to the past lawsuits of, like, the Denims, the Frogan, the Casey Tron, those are people that there are a lot of people on the internet that dislike them. So even though they would shit on other people for doing the same thing, because it's Ethan Klein, someone they like, and it's Casey Tron, Denims, and Frogan, people they dislike, a lot of people were cheering that on. But even the people that were cheering on Ethan looked at this one and said, this just doesn't make sense. Why are you doing this? And he was getting a lot of shit for this. And you can even tell when he responded to it on his stream that, like, he was trying to, he was trying to rationalize in his head why he thought that this was the correct action to take. But also at the same time, you could tell he was flustered because he was annoyed that people who had previously supported him were shitting on him for this one. But yeah, I think that, like, that has a lot more to do with it than, like, wanting this apology. I feel like the whole, like, if he just apologizes to me, I'll consider dropping it. I feel like that was just him looking for an out to kind of, like, backpedal on a bad situation he put himself in. And when iDubbbz did the apology, he's just like, okay, yeah, I'll drop the lawsuit. I feel like it was more of a PR move than anything. But that's just my 2 cents. And then the latest update we have on this is Ethan Klein accepting the apology on his stream. I guess he did a stream today. We'll catch a little bit of this, so let's take a look.
When did I say on the show that I would drop it if he made a genuine apology?
Last Friday.
That was last Friday. Yeah, so I forget why it came up, but I was just basically saying that with Ian, if he issued a genuine apology, I would consider dropping the lawsuit because he had...
Yeah, because if it was just about an apology, then he would have, like, never moved on to a lawsuit and he would have accepted the apology he got with the cease and desist, but he didn't do that. So for me, that tells me it was never about an apology. It was about, being malicious towards someone that you have a personal issue with. That's what it was. Typical Ethan Klein, disingenuous as ever. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm happy for iDubbbz that he dropped a lawsuit because nobody should ever have to go through, like, a bullshit lawsuit like that. Like, a lot of people look at lawsuits as like, yeah, you lose some money because you have to pay legal fees and stuff like that, and if you lose, then you have to pay out whatever, judgment they get or whatever. But like the amount of like mental anguish it causes to be involved in a legal action of any kind like that, like it's extremely taxing. So like I'm happy for iDubbbz that it's like done and over with now, but I can guarantee you behind the scenes before all this was over, like it probably caused a lot of mental anguish for iDubbbz and Anissa. Like, I wouldn't even say probably. Like, the likelihood is very high that it caused them a lot of mental anguish.
Issued some
So I'm happy for them that this is over.
kind of like lukewarm apology after I sent a cease and desist. I was like, well, that doesn't seem genuine, right?
Lukewarm apology? Like, again, I want to point to the Caseytron one. Ethan, if you happen to be watching this, do you think the Caseytron one was genuine? Like, she literally looked like she was in a hostage video with a gun pointed to her head, being forced to make that apology. Like, come on, bro.
And so I believe it was 2 days ago. It happened.
It was Monday.
Yeah. So that Ian put out this video, and I'll say on his main channel, which immediately I thought
I've seen some people saying that they thought that this was similar to the Caseytron thing. I don't think so. Because the Caseytron one was issuing an apology, issuing a retraction, apologizing to, like, at one point, Ethan made her apologize to Asmongold, and, like, also made her take jabs at, like, Hassan. Like, the whole thing came off as, like, okay. But here we have, like, iDubbbz. Not only is he apologizing where he feels it's necessary, but he's also maintaining his criticisms of Ethan. Like, if this was like a scripted statement that iDubbbz was forced to give, similar to Caseytron, you think Ethan would allow him to give any criticisms of Ethan in the process? Absolutely not.
was very good. That he was willing to stand on it on his main channel, obviously his biggest loudspeaker, right? And so I thought that was good. I thought that was a nice gesture to put it here. And let's hear his apology and see if it is genuine or whack. I thought it was genuine.
Anyway, we're not going to watch him watch it. We just watched it or whatever, but he accepted the apology. So overall, I think this whole situation was like really stupid. Like, I can understand and even to some level have a little bit of empathy with Ethan about, seeing somebody make that statement against him and his kids. Like, I get it, right? But if you're going to target someone with legal action for making a statement like that, maybe you should target the person who made the statement and not make excuses for it, as opposed to targeting the person who, yeah, they shouldn't have showed that on their stream, but they disavowed it and they didn't present it to their audience as fact. They very clearly stated they don't think that this is like a real thing, right? It doesn't make sense to go after that person, but not go after the person who made the statement. And ultimately, I'm happy that this is over for iDubbbz, because this was nonsense. This never should have happened. Like, come on, you're gonna sue someone for the statements that someone else made, and by the way, the statement in question, they don't even agree with it. They're disavowing it. Come on. No matter how you try to rationalize it in your head, it doesn't make any fucking sense. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. You can't explain it away in any way that's going to make it make sense, because it just doesn't.